another fond memory that you have playing with your friends a few years ago whenever you were playing Call of Duty, or something you just generally enjoyed, there's probably equally as many things that you were downright pissed off about within Call of Duty throughout the franchise's history. Today we're going to be taking a look at 10 different things that probably pissed a lot of players off more times than they can count. This list is in no way, shape, or form the absolute definitive listing for the top 10 things that would frustrate players or anger them, but if you feel like we missed something here in this video and you want to add it, feel free to let me know down there in the comment section down below. That said, let's talk about the frustrating things within the franchise's history. Let's start out with one that is absolutely golden, I think. Skill-based matchmaking. That and SBMM is a phrase that you may hear more and more often in Call of Duty, and it recently has been a topic of reactionary scapegoating for rough lobby matchmaking. And while it is insisted on being absent from recent titles, it has become a topic of hot discussion and debate because of the result of its initial introduction or mainstream debut in public matches, thanks in part to the launch of Advanced Warfare. Now, skill-based matchmaking was a thing before Advanced Warfare. It didn't originate with that game, but was primarily involved within ranked scenarios of the franchise. Most notably in the time before Advanced Warfare was in Black Ops 2's League Play section of the title, with skill-based ranking and ladder leaderboards that pitted the increasingly better against the best that there was for the sought-after Masters 1 rank. But Advanced Warfare took that dynamic and ran with it. Instead of it being a ranked playlist, we saw the increasing influx of skill-based lobbies in the form of everyday public matches, turning that casual, I just want to go play a game at TDM, into the I have to get my Red Bull headband and all, get a few practice scrims in just as a warm-up sort of scenario where players were increasingly challenged simply for just wanting to spend maybe say a Saturday killing some time in a TDM lobby. This gave rise to the increasingly common reverse boosting, in which a player would create a new account, kill themselves repeatedly in-game to the point of thousands of deaths with 1, maybe 2 kills, and then they'd be matched up against the absolute worst players in terms of skill. This worked in public matches and in ranked modes, and I actually recall whenever I was talking about it years ago that to demonstrate it in full, I actually had a reverse boosted account to showcase the one-to-one comparison between a standard account and one that was reverse boosted, and it was honestly insane. I remember in that video, I can even try and find some of the footage of it if I still have it on an old hard drive somewhere, but I dropped a double DNA bomb in a ranked match where the competition is supposed to be equal or competitive, or even in the slightest, at least slightly comparable to one, if not all, of the players in the match. But it was something that it was an absolute night and day, and especially in public lobbies, there were multiple games where I think I had doubles and triple DNA bombs, but it was something that definitely put an air of skepticism in the community's midst that lasted even until today. You'll still see comments about SBMM or skill-based matchmaking, and so for that reason, it was certainly a feature that angered many, and I think is a decent one to kick off this video. Number 2 here in this list, let's talk about one that if you've been around since the golden era of COD, you'll probably know exactly where this one is. You know that Modern Warfare 2 had one of the most iconic multiplayers of the entire franchise, from things like the Chopper Gunner, AC-130, and nuke streaks to weapons like the ACR and Intervention. There was absolutely no shortage of memorable things, but we often overlook the bugs, glitches, and straight up broken things about it. But one piece that does slip through the old memory suppression is one-man army noob tubes. Now, while initially designed to change the playstyle of a player on the fly and be able to let them adapt to a different situation that may be coming up, the perk and attachment combo were wildly overused, and with the damage potential and almost real inability to counter a flying explosive regularly, it was something that caused much rage and probably caused many profanities to be hurled at your monitor back in the day. A classic rage-inducing piece of the gameplay, but a fun fact, it actually was planned to be patched before the whole Infinity Ward vs. Activision lawsuit derailed much of the progress internally at the time. But regardless, it still is regarded as one of those items that went down in infamy in the COD franchise history. So to that, it makes this list. Number 3 up on the list deals with supply drops, a feature that we see even today, something topical and recent. Now, supply drops are first introduced in the age of Advanced Warfare as a way to reward players for their grind in-game, and with a large number of cosmetics and weapon variants introduced for the first real time in COD history, it made sense to introduce those in by playtime. However, that was only the original intent. While it's easy to say from an outside perspective that it was all calculated as a move from the beginning, I've been assured by contacts that I have that it truthfully was not the intention of Sledgehammer to go over the top with them, and that the monetization and frugal integration was not what their envision ever really was. And to some extent, it was sort of a monster that they inadvertently created, but weren't proud of. But regardless of the origins, supply drops have, dare I say, plagued the franchise as of recent years as a way to drive up MTX sales through the roof, and has taken items that players would otherwise consider core additions in past games and locked them behind a chance to paywall. While there have been strives in recent years to adjust the situation to better suit the player and be more fair, the outcome of such adjustments are still completely different depending on who you ask. Black Ops 4 looked to initially remove such items with the introduction of the contraband stream and guaranteed tiers of those items, but the reserve cases acted the same from the initial launch, and with the ability to purchase crates for $2, which act as a 3-item reserve compared to 1, they've effectively reintroduced supply drops, which begs the question, will they ever in fact ever leave the franchise? Number 4 on this list is going to be one that may test your memory a little bit, but in Black Ops 3 there was one thing in particular during the beta that was wildly concerning for a lot of players, and especially the dubbed pub stomping community. This was the Rejack ability for Nomad, the specialist ability that would activate and revive a player from a downed state just before dying. Usually it's pretty easy to clean them up, but a lot of the times you can get killed by a player in the mist as they get back up, but the concerning part at the time in that beta was that players didn't have their streaks reset. Their kill streaks, and even on the very first playable experiences, their score would not reset either. So essentially, you had a second chance that would not reset anything, and you had the ability to just jump back into it as a second chance and could really alter the flow of the game. This angered many people. Unfortunately, it was something that was changed, and if you take a look at it today, it does not act that way, but while you were reintroduced into the playing field without technically dying, your progress on the previous life is now reset, and you'd still be starting fresh, but without that re-up in ammo and equipment. Number 5 on this list deals with pro perks. While this was something we saw a couple of times in the franchise, the one in question today comes from Modern Warfare 2. Again, one of those things that we may blissfully overlook as an inherent issue with Modern Warfare 2, that being the Commando Pro perk, which allowed for absolutely insane commando lunging, as it was dubbed, in which if you ended up going in for a melee, your extension and range on that could have been absolutely terrifying. Now, while some of those exaggerated clips have gone viral from the game, it still was something that, even at its base and core, was something that gave a tremendous advantage to those knifing in close quarters. Why you didn't necessarily have to say, have just a melee like you would in Modern Warfare 3 Infected or something similar, the Commando Lunge gave an absolute undeniable advantage to the player that ended up having the melee. You could end up knifing through even shots that you'd be taking and still take out the player in ways that would leave that player absolutely perplexed. And so, having been a victim to much commando lunging, and I'm sure you have as well if you're back in the day of Modern Warfare 2, I'm sure this one is a no-brainer for the list of things that pissed people off. Number 6 is another recent one, but that being the fact there was no campaign in Black Ops 4. While it has maybe subsided in terms of frustration as of now, nearly 5 months after the launch of Black Ops 4, it is something that, especially pre-launch, a lot of players were disappointed and completely angered by the fact that there was a third Battle Royale game mode instead of a traditional campaign. While Black Ops and even World at War were some of the best story arcs the franchise has to offer, players initially anticipated a campaign that would extend that story a little further, give a little more depth to the universe of Black Ops, but instead, there was nothing of the sorts. Admittedly, while there is no traditional campaign for Black Ops 4, there still is rich lore and narrative details hidden within multiplayer, Blackout, as well as zombies, and even the Specialist HQ has a lot of key hints and teasers as well, which provide some context and clarity to a storyline that realistically could have made an absolutely fantastic campaign had it ever been implemented. But with the rumors circulating that it was cut around halfway, we have no idea if that storyline in the backstory would tie in with that campaign as well as we would think, but it's still certainly interesting to think about. Next up on this list is something that probably needs no introduction at all, that being Exo boosts from Advanced Warfare, what ushered in the age of jetpacks in Call of Duty. Advanced Warfare's Exo Movement was the most over-the-top compared to those of the rest of the 3-year cycle, and initially it caused an absolutely massive learning curve. While Advanced Warfare set sails and aimed to be that Call of Duty that shook up what exactly we know about Call of Duty and changed the traditional copy and paste formula that a lot of people ended up saying COD was every single year over, that change ultimately wasn't a bullseye in community reception, which initially at the time was hated by a lot of people, but also was something that was received well by another faction of the player base. But towards the end of the life cycle, it was something that was relatively a gimmick that not many people were into as much anymore, even if they were on board initially. And so to have 2 more years after that of still Advanced Movement, it's what I'd imagine a lot of people thought was a darker time of the Call of Duty franchise. Flashing back a little bit further within the Call of Duty franchise, we're gonna jump back to Modern Warfare 3, a change that really made people upset, frustrated, and pissed off just based off of sheer confusion as to why it was a thing to begin with. In Modern Warfare 3, you had your strike packages of Specialist, Assault, and Support, in which your Assault was all your lethal kill streaks, your Specialist was of course your perks you ended up getting as bonuses on top of your score streak allocated ones, and then also within that, we ended up seeing the Support package, which offered a lot of cool things like ballistic vests, UAVs, and so on and so forth. But the one that really perplexed players was that of the Stealth Bomber that you ended up having as an option in that Support package, because Support packages never reset, so you were guaranteed, if you ended up getting a certain number of kills or objective captures, to get that Stealth Bomber, and it was essentially our first introduction at a sort of participation medal or some sort of freebie kills that we now see abundantly within the Call of Duty franchise. But at the time, it was definitely something that frustrated players because you could be on a very well hard-earned streak, and somebody that could have been sitting in a corner and may only have 10 kills in a capture or two could end up killing you off of it because of that support streak. So the Stealth Bomber in that Support package, I definitely recall pissing off a lot of people. The penultimate thing up on this list deals with one that we've seen the past 2 years actually, that being fire shotguns. Now, first introduced within Call of Duty World War II is the incendiary shells, which initially was a division perk and basic attribute of the Expeditionary Division, and then was later then added as an attachment to shotguns after the division overhaul. It was something that ultimately did a little bit more damage over time, but not necessarily say initially compared to a regular shot. And so therefore it was a little bit of a trade-off and balance that players often overlooked because it was tremendously infuriating to see those players just charging at you with flames coming out of their shotgun. Black Ops 4 introduced it within the secondary operator mod of the Dragon's Breath for the MOG 12, and it's only available on that shotgun, and it's a very specific thing you'll probably come in contact to, but with the recent rebalancing of the MOG 12 especially, it's become an operator mod and a feature that has been more played around with than as of recent times within Black Ops 4. So the sheer irritation is what ends up frustrating and pissing off a lot of players, but it is something that has been there as of the last 2 years, and maybe, you know what, it'd be cool if we didn't see that again coming up in Infinity Ward's next title. And the final thing we'll talk about today that is more so just an irritating thing, more so than any, and actually comes back to pretty much every single title of the franchise, is joining lobbies in progress whenever you're already getting absolutely smacked, or your team is per se. Not necessarily you could be totally fine, you could be an absolute warrior, but if you're joining into a game where your team is down by tremendous amounts and it's 5 points from when the game ends, what's the point of even being putting in that lobby? Of course, that's the way the lobby matchmaking ends up working. It tries to fill vacant spots with players searching for them, but sometimes that timing is just impossible to avoid, and there are no set parameters of, say, a 100-point deficit restriction where it won't join players into matches like that. It just simply tries to fill the voids that are made in matchmaking. So unfortunately, that's something that has persisted and doesn't seem like it's going away, but it is certainly something that has frustrated players for years on end. That said, that's where we're going to wrap it up here at this one. So again, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you guys agree with this list? And again, if there's anything that you would like to add, feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Of course, out of all of these, if some of these still persist, what do you think are some ways that we could remedy this if we had our say and our direct voices being the hand of change? What would you do differently? That said, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 4, all things Call of Duty, anything MP, Blackout, Zombies. We got you covered the best of updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff. So if any of it interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, there's the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. I can live on both those. So if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. Well, that's it. Out of the way. Thank you guys all so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.